When we're trying to do good, we want to fight for what we believe in. There are just so many things that we need to fight for. Sometimes we need to fight for freedom, for equality, for peace or security. In that way, we might want to sort of be like soldiers, fighting for the things that we care about. But we need to be careful not to think like soldiers. In what's called a soldier mindset, we fight to prove that our beliefs are right. Contrast soldiers on a battlefield with scouts, who try to run ahead to collect information about the terrain and identify obstacles. If we think more like a scout, we focus less on fighting for what we already believe and focus more on seeing the world as it is and getting closer to the truth. There are times when a soldier mindset is useful, but it often trips us up. In politics, people sometimes vote for things that their team supports rather than the things that benefit the people they actually care about. In health, people fight for their particular diet, cherry-picking evidence that supports it and ignoring evidence against it. And in improving the world, we might feel an emotional pull towards a solution rather than looking closely at the evidence. Let me give you an example. No one wants young people to end up in prison. So, what do we do with a kid like Ryan, who got caught stealing a car at 15? One option is to show him what his future might look like by having him talk to inmates at maximum security prisons. This was the idea behind Scared Straight. The program aimed to help young offenders avoid prison by showing them the grim reality of life behind bars. It was hoped that by meeting inmates, kids like Ryan would be scared away from committing further crimes. A documentary about Scared Straight won an Academy Award. It finishes with all the success stories. How, with very few exceptions, the kids who did the Scared Straight program stayed out of prison. The program was so popular that it became a TV series with 83 episodes. Watching it, it's easy to be convinced that the program's amazing. It's no wonder it received billions of dollars in government funding to get rolled out. With a soldier mindset, you might fight for even more funding. The problem is, Scared Straight doesn't work. Someone with a scout mindset tested the value of the program. They recruited young people like Ryan and randomized them to either get scared straight or not. These kind of experiments are called randomized controlled trials because some people are randomized to a group called the control group who don't get the program. Those people in the control group were actually less likely to commit crimes than those exposed to Scared Straight. Why? Well, self-esteem predicts whether people will reoffend, and maybe being screamed at by an inmate isn't that good for your self-esteem after all. But maybe that was just one bad study. Well, other people did what's called a systematic review, where you pull together and summarize the findings of all of the studies on a topic. According to these systematic reviews, Scared Straight is downright harmful. For every $1 society spent running Scared Straight, it did $200 worth of harm to society through increased reoffending. If we think like soldiers without seeing like scouts, we might accidentally end up shooting the person we're trying to protect. The technical term for a soldier mindset is directionally motivated reasoning. This means that we're motivated to see the evidence in a particular direction, usually the direction that we already believe. You might know it as confirmation bias. As psychologist Jonathan Haidt says, when we want to believe something, we ask ourselves, can I believe it? Then we search for supporting evidence, and if we find even a single piece of pseudo-evidence, we can stop thinking. Now we have permission to believe. We have justification in case anyone asks. If we're thinking about Scared Straight, we can tell stories of lots of kids doing well after the program. It's easy to not think about what would have happened otherwise. Even when we get some evidence that the program might not work, like we see a Scared Straight kid who reoffends, our brain finds it easy to dismiss that evidence. Maybe he was just a bad apple. When we don't want to believe something, we ask ourselves, must I believe it? Then we search for contrary evidence, and if we find a single reason to doubt the claim, we dismiss it. This problem is easy to see in others, but it's harder to see in ourselves. We find it easy to see other people showing confirmation bias. They dismiss the evidence that we think is important, but how hard are we really looking to find ways we might be wrong? How easy do we find it to dismiss their evidence that they present us? If we want to see the truth, we might need to think more like scouts. The moral of this story goes beyond Scared Straight. The point is that we need to push ourselves a bit if we really want to find the truth. Our feelings about what works don't track well against the actual effects. It's hard to look for actual evidence about what works, like reviews of randomized trials. It's easy to feel compelled by stories that we want to believe, or by our own experience. If we've got a cold, we might reach for anything to make us feel better. For a while, lots of people would ask for antibiotics, and many doctors would prescribe them. Lo and behold, they'll take the antibiotics and they'd start to feel better. Lots of examples like this might make us think that the antibiotics are working. But 99% of the time, we would have gotten better anyway. It was just the passage of time that helped us recover. Antibiotics don't do anything for a virus like the common cold. Viruses and bacteria are too different for the same treatment to work. A review of 8 randomized controlled trials showed that antibiotics were no better than a placebo for treating any type of cough. Now, this doesn't really harm anyone when we take something like vitamin C, but those who took antibiotics were more likely to develop side effects. More generally, when lots of us use antibiotics when we don't really need them, it becomes easier for resistant bacteria to evolve. Those bacteria kill over 1 million people a year. Our soldier mindset, which thinks that these antibiotics will help this virus, harms us and the rest of society. Now, I'm not trying to guilt you out of ever taking antibiotics, but to show how hard it can be to determine cause and effect without science. After all, we took a pill and we felt better. How are we expected to know that it causes all these other problems? All of this is even harder when it comes to helping others, because it's painful to think that our efforts to do good were actually harmful. This is another type of cognitive bias called cognitive dissonance. We could look closely and find new information and possibly have to accept we've been making poor decisions. Or we could just ignore the new information in favor of our old bad habits. This is tough, right? Imagine how hard it was for the producers of Scared Straight to actually believe the evidence. It'd be really hard to invest years in a program and be told that it was doing damage. If I was in a similar boat, my brain would do the same thing and end up finding any reason to dismiss the evidence that was coming in. But I think most of us care about what actually happens, not just our intentions or our beliefs. The only thing worse than realizing we've been doing something useless in the past is to keep doing it after we find evidence that it's broken. If we instead learn to think like scouts, we can find what really works. Scared Straight shows us that it's hard to predict what actually works to improve the world. Things that make us feel good and even win awards don't always produce good outcomes for the people we're trying to help. If we really want to do good, we shouldn't only rely on our intuitions, because confirmation bias can trap us. Instead, we need to think more like scouts and try to find ways we might be wrong using reason and good evidence. Sure, we need soldiers to help win a battle, but without listening to the scouts, some poor kid might end up in the crossfire.